go over the order form for the Canopy line by line so that you can understand what you're supposed to be filling out and what I will be filling out for you, or actually for us. So I want to point out one thing, that the video would be dated that coincides with the order form with the same date that's on the order form. So if you look on the order form line 36 and 73, there's a date there, and that'll be the same date as the video that will apply to this particular form. So just keep that in mind. On lines 1, you'll notice there's a draft and an invoice. I will assign those really as needed. I'll assign a draft letter anytime the form is revised. Not so much for clarity on clerical stuff, but for pricing, quantities, for actually the order that you want to have. So anytime that changes, there'll be a new draft assigned, draft number or draft letter assigned to lines 1 and 37, so that both pages then are married and stay together. The invoice number I will assign after I feel comfortable that we're going to go through with this, or at least we hope to. If you're just looking for a proposal, I probably won't put anything in there. I may even write proposal. So that's lines 1. Line 2, I will date this when I first hear from you, so that I've got an established point, a reference date, if you will. Not necessarily an order date, but a reference date. I don't change that even after it's ordered, or never have. So that just becomes a talking point. It would be line 2. I will assign a ship date when it leaves here, East Tennessee. Your name, and if you'll please list the name or let me know what your name is, so that I can not only have it on this form, but in my file I can refer to that same name. A lot of times I'll have 2 or 3 different names to the same person, and it's problematic to try to find you in a file and combine that with the orders. So let's just stick with one name if we can, a first name primarily. That would help, I think, both of us. Company, rarely do I put a company name in there. On occasion I will, but I don't file it to the company. I file it to the individual. Address, city, phone, state, zip, county, country, email, website. This is pretty much boilerplate information that I will get from you pretty much early on, so that I can begin filling out the form for you. The trike information. The year is not really important until I want to do some research to find out if there was a change in your trike from one year to the next, and it helps me zero in on the equipment to supply to you. So year, make, model, color, wheel size on line 10 is pretty important. Rider information on line 11. The rider height in particular helps me decide where this canopy is going to be need to be positioned on your trike because of your height. There's a lot of other things that will come into play, but I can compare your height with the canopies that I've already sent out and the rider's height with those canopies. So it becomes a tool for me to help size the equipment for your trike, for you and your trike. Okay, the actual canopy on line 12, the package starts off selecting a color. You won't have any selectivity on the length of the rods, front or back. I will make all that determination, but the color is really something you need to decide. Now, I am discovering that the lighter colors, the high-vis colors, the orange and the lime greens, they are fading rapidly. So please keep that in mind. You can cover them to a certain degree, but that's something that it's worsening. The conditions are worsening, and I try to stay on top of it, and I just can't. The black is pretty much a universal go-to color. It does not build up heat, as you might imagine. So black would be certainly a good selection for any trike. On line 15, you'll see there are a couple of boxes there that I would like for you to help me determine. The cutouts on the side of the canopy are primarily used for putting rubber fittings on. Now, you may order a canopy without any cutouts in it, in which case you would just select no on line 15. But if you ever want to add any of this material, the equipment later on, you won't have the means to do that. So, and these pockets are cut out with a hot knife, so the edges are relatively sealed for as thin as the material is. But that's something that if you want any of this material now, the equipment, the rack, the visors, we're going to have to add the cutouts. So yes or no there. If you don't know, I'll help you decide. Line 17 and 18, that'll be information that I will make notes of after we've really decided what kind of canopy to supply to you, the equipment, your rider height, the type of trike, etc. So that's information that I record so that a year from now, if you call me and want an exact replacement, then I can go back in here and know exactly what I ship, because some of these things are, I size them according to a particular trike and rider. So if you're going to make a change later on, that even though it may be the same canopy, there may be some information change because of the data on line 17 and 18 that I'll control. The front connector. The front connector is this area right here, and all that you have to determine is the type of connection you want at this point. And I've got some samples over here, so let me get those and we'll talk about this. Now keep in mind, we're only talking about the canopy. We're not talking about the trike. We're talking about the canopy, because you may already have a trike that's set up for a canopy. We want to make sure that the canopy fits your trike that you already have. So, the front connection, let me get some samples. Again, please remember, we're only talking about the canopy at this point in time. Now on line 20, you'll see a trigger snap hook brass. That is this particular connection, and if I can get over here where you can see it, it is a Lobster-Claw trigger snap, and it clamps into something like an eyelet. We'll talk about that when we get to the trike on page 2. But that's the clamp, and it goes on this fitting, this rubber fitting that's on the bottom of the down rod tubes. Now, if you do not get any fitting for the front, you'll end up with just a loop of tubing like this. This can be hooked onto whatever's available up front. So the least expensive canopy would be with no front connection, and it would look like this. So you have the selection of the trigger snap, and there's the trigger. This connects into an eyelet that we'll talk about later on. Or on line 22, you'll see a quick disconnect, which is in focus here. The quick disconnect would then be that part on the down rod assembly. So your selection at this point, if you want a front connection, is either the trigger snap or the quick disconnect. Most people go with the quick disconnect. The square shape locks it into where it doesn't rotate, as opposed to this in an eyelet. It wants to float, so your connection is not as secure. So those are the two connection options, along with none of the above. The Velcro patches on line 24 I put those on here, and I've had issues with them in the past, and I can't pinpoint whether it's the material color, the material makeup, the composition that's in this ripstop nylon, the coatings on it, the adhesive on the Velcro patches, which when I buy this, I buy as the best grade adhesive I can find on the Velcro. I even ask that when the patches are issued to me on a die cut roll, I own the die cut, the die that cuts those out for me. I ask for a certificate of maker date, so I can control the shelf life of the Velcro patches that I have. Or like I said, they're on a roll already cut out. So there are 7 patches. There are 4 underneath for the visors, 2 for each visor. So if you want visors, you'll have to have the Velcro patches. Now you'll have to you only need the 4 underneath, but there are 3 others. There's 1 underneath up forward. It's just an accessory patch for your convenience. If you want to fasten something in that area, it's convenient. It's up overhead and in front of your face. There are 2 more. I've got patches on these 2 up top that I like to just put decorative items up here. Sometimes if I'm going to a rally or something, I might put a rally number back here or a registration number. But those are optional patches on the top. Again, if you want visors, you'll have to have the 4, 2 on each side underneath. I will put those on. I'm using a 3M primer at the moment, so the patch is more durable than they have been in the past, but we're also facing climate conditions that are changing, and they're demanding more of the adhesive, which the sun beats down and hits underneath this fabric. So it's a challenge. Can you have a canopy without any Velcro patches? Yes, you can. So that's something that if you want to talk to me about it, we can. They're very difficult to add later on. I do have a kit I can send out to you, but for the price on the price list to add these patches on now, I'd say please do it. Please consider doing it, because once it's shipped, it's out of here. The rubber fittings are all on this location here. There are 8 rubber fittings, 4 of which are for the gear rack, and 2 of which are for the teeter rod underneath that we'll talk about in a minute for the visor, and 2 for the rods that actually that control the articulation. If I can find my little, there it is. There's a rubber fitting on each side for the visors that control the arm of the visor. So you'll need these rubber fittings if you're going to be selecting now or later the gear rack and or visors. So I encourage people to go ahead and put the rubber fittings package on. You don't have to order the gear rack now or even the visors. But if you want to add those later on, the rubber fittings will be in place, and to add the rest of this is just really a piece of cake. So I'm going to leave that visor just kind of hanging there for a moment, and we're going to talk about that. The visor package, line 27, you get not only the visors and these rods. Remember, the fittings are already on here, but you'll need these rods, 1 on each side. You'll need the visor itself, and also the teeter rod that's underneath. So that's the visor package. There are selections. The black visor, line 31, option A is standard, or you can go to a tinted visor package, and on this particular price list you have the selection of bronze or gray. These are mild tints. They're not dark at all, but they do give you some protection from the direct intensity of the sun coming in from the side, or a light even at night if you're in a really brightly lit area. The smooth material is easier to cover with decals and things, whereas the black is textured on the top side. You can put a decal on it, and it is more forgiving for scratches. The tinted visors, which are more expensive, they are a upper level bling factor, they'll add an upper level bling factor, if you will, but they scratch easier than the black. So keep that in mind. The gear rack, line 33, comes, it'll come broken down. It won't come in a big piece. You see 5 rods here. The standard gear rack will only have 3 of them. You can order more. We can put a whole array up here. We can even make them a lot longer if your luggage requirements are different than just a standard gear rack might provide. But it'll come in 2 cross pieces. Those are inserted first in the rubber fittings that you already have, and then you put these rods in, these rubber fittings, which are already on these tubes when you get that package. So there would be 3 front to back rods, solid rods, and 2 cross pieces with all the rubber fittings on it. It makes a nice gift. It can be added later, and it can easily be taken off. There are some set screws on either side that when those are removed, this gear rack comes off. And I do want to mention too that when you get the Canopy, it will include the front down rods here that I've already determined for you what length that'll be, and also it includes the V-block in the back, which connects all this to the trike. Now remember, we're only talking, at this point, we're only talking about the Canopy. In other words, if I could take that off, that's all we've talked about. We haven't talked about the trike yet. Until now. On page 2, that's when we start talking about the trike. So the Canopy is all here. We're going to be talking about accessories, options, and things we can do to the Canopy. This is a vinyl end cap, and it just slides down over the derailleur tube. Now a lot of the newer trikes have e-power or some sort of a gearing system up front, so you don't even have a derailleur tube, but this will slide down over the derailleur tube, and this is intended for that clamp that I showed you. If this is on your Canopy, on your Lobster-Claw Clamp, I hope you can see this Lobster-Claw Clamp, if that's what you selected for your Canopy, your options are one of either of these. If the tube is relatively free of a derailleur system up high to where this vinyl cap can slide down over it, this is simple, and because it's vinyl, there's not going to be any noise from it. So this would simply clamp onto that, and then remember, that's your Canopy going up. The second option would be that if you can't go down, or you can't put this over the outside because of the derailleur clamp in the way, what I will end up doing on lines 39 and 40, I'm sorry, 39 and 41. The 41 is a bung, this rubber piece that fits down in the tube, and when this is turned, actually I would turn this to where it's tighter, but when this is turned, that it pinches on that rubber bung and expands inside the tube, and then you've got a vinyl or a rubber coated eyelet. Again, that's intended for that front connection there. So those are the 2 options. If you've got the Lobster-Claw Clamp, those would be your 2 options. I get that off there. Right here. We'll leave that on there. Your other option would be on line 40 and 41. Again, that rubber bung that's on this eyelet here is actually at the bottom of this quick disconnect. Now this quick disconnect has a square receiver, so that it can accept the Canopy. Remember now, this is your Canopy, and if that's on your trike, it has the bung on the bottom that's sized to the tube that's on your trike. Now if you don't have a tube, we're going to have to do some other things. If you've got the tube though, and we go down the side with the bung, then it'll take the bung on line 41 and the quick disconnect on line 40, and that just simply slides in this little shoe, and the lever slides over and locks it in. To extract the Canopy, you slide that out of the way and it comes off. So it's real simple. I would say 25 out of 26 people will order this quick disconnect. It's simple, it's classy, and it seems to function pretty well. Now, if you have, I'm going to get this out of the way for a minute, if you happen to have a trike without a front derailleur tube, one option, especially with the TerraTrike Rover, where it's like a square tube frame up forward, there's a bottle cage set of braze-on ports, threaded ports, and I make this that actually the adapter here fits right down on the bottle cage ports, and it includes, this would be an add-on item that will price in and add on line 43. This is extra, but with this, then we can have either of these two options. But this will give us the means to attach these. And there is a swivel feature here, and because I'm removing your capacity to attach the bottle cage to the frame, I provide, if you can see it on this other side, two holes to where a bottle cage can be connected. You can attach it to the back side or what would be the front side. And the thing I like about this single swivel point here is that this angle will match the front down rod, so it looks like the Canopy was made for your trike and not an option or an aftermarket option. So that's available. There are other connectors available, and that's something that I'm going to have to talk to you each individually on, because every trike is different, and these are just some of the things that are offered. But when you get to the front connection, we'll need to talk, and it doesn't take long to decide exactly what your options are, because you don't have all these options. You only have a couple, so we'll talk about that. If you have a green speed trike, you have, in all likelihood, a tag up there, a little metal form like a tab. Ian Sims called it a tag, and currently it is a number 3 tag, which is about 3/16 of an inch thick. The number 2 was closer to an 1/8 of an inch, and some of the early green speeds had an altogether different array up front. But anyway, this is made for a green speed, and it's just simply sandwiches down over the tag and gives you the quick disconnect. I've not had to call for a hook in here for the Lobster-Claw Clamp. They've all been quick disconnect, but this would fasten onto the tag on a green speed, and you've got two accessory bars either side. There's a long screw in here that sandwiches all this onto the green speed tag, and of course it enables then the quick disconnect to be attached. So that's real handy for a green speed. The price on that would be extra, and it would be added on line 43. Another option that I'm beginning to use quite a few of is this system here, and this is meant to clamp onto the boom tube, in which case you've got the Shimano steps, or you've got a pinion system out on the forward leading edge of the boom tube. This just mounts on the boom tube straps with Velcro straps, pretty long straps, and that then gives you the quick disconnect for the Canopy. Again, this would be an extra item on line 43. I think each one of these custom adapters, front or back, each one's going to have to be priced accordingly. Some of these are quite simple. Some of them are like they're on the TerraTrike Rover standoff there. They can get kind of complicated, so we need to price them on an individual basis. The rear rack adapter is pretty much just a block system that will attach to the rack that you have. Now this happens to be a rack time rack, and I've got probably 30 to 40 different racks here that I use for modeling. But this would be your rack adapter that includes all of this attachment part back here. If you want to see that in an individual basis, it looks similar to this. This is for a different rack, but you can see that there's a block, all your hardware, your three-prong wing nut here. That's the adapter. Now that is on line 44, and you'll also notice that on line 45 there's I discount the adapter system if you're using a rack time, whether you get the rack time rack from me or not. This happens to be a universal rack with you can, for 26, 28, you can get this solid area down here where this area is all welded down here. This I can ship with the Canopy, this part here, and I do keep them in stock. They're not that expensive. It is an additional price item. It's not on the price list. But the reason I wanted to discount the rack time, and I haven't gotten this far yet, but there is an adapter system. It's called the Snap It system that simply goes on the top, and with this we can put dog baskets, we can put a whole array of things, and I'm not even there yet. But this, then, we can add to any of the racks, any of the rack time racks that are out there. We can now start adding things to it. So that's your rack adapter. If you wanted to do it yourself, if you wanted to do the rack adapter yourself, in other words, fashion a block to fit your rack, your pannier rack, and it's vital that this be really rigidly fastened to the back of your rack. This would be then on lines 46 what you would get for the pannier rack adapter. This is for the do-it-yourself builders, would be all of the black items that you see here, except the rubber bushings up the top, but you would get the hardware, and then this, then you would make your own adapter. But this needs to be there because this little keyway, for instance, it keys into the V block that fits over this. So this is a vital piece. I would not sell a Canopy to a new customer without either lines 44 or lines 46. So if one or the other, I can almost promise you that you'll have a super challenge if you try to do it yourself. But this is such a vital link in the success of that Canopy on your trike that I hope you understand the importance of the adapter back there. But that's it. On windshields, this trike has a custom windshield on it, which means it goes down pretty much to the bottom of the down rod assembly. These down rods, again, are part of the Canopy, and they're sized to your rider height, your trike type, and so forth. But to do a custom windshield and I've got to have the cutouts here for your legs to clear, it's pretty much you're going to have to bring your trike here, or we're going to have to do you can do a paper cutout of this area, but it's going to be very time consuming to get a custom canopy to fit your trike. Now, a standard canopy, not as complicated. It does have the two wings, not quite as big as these on this custom, but the windshield is only this long. So it's an easier to fit windshield. There's a multitude of holes here for the V shape of the down rod assembly. So you can pretty much fit a standard canopy with a standard windshield. But in order to do that, that's your standard and custom windshield on lines 48 and 49. On line 50, we have what's called a wicker bill. This is tinted, and the windshields, by the way, are not available in a tint. This is a tinted piece, that fits up in the overhead to where if you do a lot of in morning or late afternoon rides, this is pretty nice because it helps. It's like putting a visor, a tinted visor on the horizon there for you for that sun protection. It does feature, these particular fittings have a plastic thumb screw, so that if you wanted to take this off, it's pretty easy to take off and put on, as is the windshield. But in order to do all of that, now or later, you've got to have the fittings package, the rubber fittings package. So if you look at line 51, there are fittings for the windshield. There are two up on the top, and these two. Those would be a minimum order for a windshield. Again, that would be the standard windshield only. I can put these on before the package leaves here so that you don't have to assemble anything, and that way you can add the windshield a year later and it'll still be it'll still fit. Now if you want a custom windshield, you need to order another pair for down below, and again we can put all that on there, and they're priced per pair because you need two, one on each side, so the price per pair. This one has 4 pair of fittings, and I can't imagine mounting anything else up there. If you want just the wicker bill, it would take these two. If you wanted a standard windshield, it would take these two and these two, so 2 pair. If you want a custom windshield, take 3 pair. 1, 2, 3. If you wanted a full boat of fittings and no windshield or wicker bill, that's fine, because these can very easily be added later on. So that's your windshield fittings package. Let's talk about rear view mirrors. These come carded. They're action mirrors. Maybe not the best mirrors on the planet, but for this Canopy, yes, they're the best mirrors on the planet. They come with a rubber strap, so it's going to be very user-friendly on the accessory bar. It's not going to be chipping paint off and so forth. And if you do order these, they come in a pair. If you do order these, I put them, I cinch this strap up before I put it on, and I make it just as tight as I can. There's 2 options on tightness. I make it as tight as I can and slide it over, and hopefully you'll have a vinyl cap on here, which is on the new Canopies, and you can order it for the older Canopies. It makes the fit of this rear view mirror tighter with that vinyl cap on. But the mirror itself is it's pretty user friendly. It's got a rivet up on the top. It's got a rivet front to back. And it's also got a swivel feature out here at the end, so you can articulate that to where you get it right where you want it. Now these rivets are not very tight, so if you're just traveling at speeds up to 10 miles an hour on a relatively smooth road bed, not going to be a problem. I've got a rider I talked to today. He averages between 20 and 30 miles per hour for 40 to 50 miles per day. He's going to be riding across country next year. And we're going to actually peen these rivets to make everything tighter up here. But that's pretty much an individual case. These mirrors used to have a screw in there when I first started buying them, and you could tighten the screw up, but as soon as you moved the mirror, the screw got loose. So that didn't work. So they've got rivets in there. For the price for a pair of these mirrors, I promise you, with a Canopy fitted with rear view mirrors at eye level, it's an experience you have not had until that point. And it was one of the most pleasant discoveries I made in the Canopy development, was having these mirrors at eye level. So that is something, it makes riding fun and safe. So that's your rear view mirrors. Can they be added later? Sure can. The accessory bar extender is nothing more than a short inch and a half long piece. See it here. It has it comes with a longer set screw and a rubber washer. This longer set screw replaces the set screw that's already in. When you get the Canopy, there's a set screw already in this end that tightens against the main rods. You'll take that out, put this longer one in there, which will give you a stub sticking out on which you could then attach the extender. This is if you wanted to mount a phone out here or some other accessory that requires a longer bar. So these are available. You can put 4 of them on the trike. Some people order just one. Some people order a pair. Some people don't even order them. I don't use them, but they're available. That is line 53 right there. The light bar on line 34 is this little bar here. That's 4.5 inches long now, and when it comes to you, it'll have hopefully it'll have these 2 little stub pieces in there, and you'll take your Allen wrench and you'll remove these little pieces here. And the reason they're on there is a set screw, stainless steel set screw, and a plastic plug in there, so that when this light bar is put on rods and this is tightened up, the set screw doesn't go against the glass rods and start breaking the rods. So that's oh gosh, I love doing videos. Anyway, that is a light bar. Now it has also a port, typically it has a port on here for a 1/4 inch diameter shaft rod, flag rod, but primarily this is used for an elevated light. Now when I ship just the light bar, I will ship a pair of rods that will be the same length, and they are dressed on the ends and painted, so there's to reduce the likelihood of you getting splinters from glass fibers. But the length on these, it could be whatever I grab a hold of, up to, I'd say, 8 or 10 inches. That's for the light bar. How does this fasten to your canopy? There are 2 ports in the canopy on the top of this, go down through the V block. And if I've got those screws loose enough where this will go down through there, you'll see that just slides in there, and then these thumb screws are fastened against it. So if your light is on it, I put it on there backwards, because the thumb screw would need to go in the front if you've got a light pole, or not a light pole, a flag pole in here. So that's your light bar. It will be shipped with a couple of short rods, not quite this long, probably long enough to get it up about there. It gives you a center mounted area. If you want longer rods, I mean, I can ship rods up to 6 feet long. So that's your light bar. Now, if you order a flag bar, the light bar is line 54. That's this single item here with a couple of short rods, okay, of some length to where you can at least get it mounted onto your V-block. If you have a flag, if this is your only means to attach a flag, then there's your flag. It just goes right into the V-block, and it's all fastened. These are nylon thumb screws down here that fasten against the glass rods. So nowhere, and this thumb screw up here is nylon, so when you put your flag in here, if this is your flag holder, there's no metal to glass rod interference. So that's your light bar. Now if you want to go, and the light bar was line 54 on the line, and you'll see some selections as far as the angle of the hole. Kind of confusing. There's no difference in the cost. I can talk to you about that. We can select. I can even put a different angle on there if you want it. On the flag bar, That was the light bar. The flag bar, line 56, is this item. It looks similar and does other things for you, however. It features a Velcro oval plate in the middle. It will fit. Let's lower this. We got those fastened in. Let's put that down here toward the bottom. And let's put the flag bar would fit on these same rods. And I didn't loosen these screws and adjust again with these thumb screws on the back, these nylon thumb screws. This would then go over the rods. Now when you order the flag bar, I begin to think, well, you're going to need longer rods up here to play with. So now we're going from 8, 10, maybe up to 12 inches for no cost, no additional cost. Now I'm not going to ship you 4 rods because you've got 2 things. I'm going to ship you 2 rods. If you order these 2 items, they'll be 10 inches long, 12 inches long maybe. Okay? Again, this whole system, whoop, let's fasten this back together. It's late in the day, folks. This whole system can then come out. Okay, you got flags, you got your center flag or a light, and this can go up at the top. Now, the flag bar, how does that differ from everything else? This Velcro patch will enable you to come up with, I like embroidered patches that you get when you travel around. And if you'll put a piece of Velcro on the back of that, you can then use that as just a nice little place for some bling or private, you put a license plate, put your name back there, put your girlfriend's name, or your wife's name, or both maybe. You put that back there and it just helps identify a unique package. So that is what you get with a flag bar. Now, why would we call it a flag bar? Because we can put flags in there. Now, I'm not going to get into flags on this video, but I have begun making flags. Now, let's just say and these flags are, they're all on 1/4 inch rods. And I don't know if I can even find 2 the same. I can't. Or can I? Yes, I can. Here's another one. Just like that one. These flags, I don't think this flag bar has had a flag in it before today. Sometimes that little plastic plug in there will interfere with that port. But there's your flag arrangement, and it's all off the flag bar. Can this piece go up the top and you have a center flag? Of course. And again, this whole thing can be taken out and stored for transporting wherever and however. I will mention that when I get into offering the flags, which will be very shortly, within a few weeks probably, I do have the tag and the label on there, and well, we'll get into that because the soft rubber tips, there will be a flag package available that I think is kind of neat. But at this point, we got the flag bar and the light bar. The flag bar being, put that on there. In fact, we got Veterans Day coming up. We have Veterans Day coming up next week, and all you vets out there, I appreciate it. Be proud. Coast Guard. What you got on there? Put Smoky Mountain right there. Okay, so we get the flag bar, the light bar, rod on line 57, up to 6 feet long. And if I ship you rods, all the ends will be dressed. I sand them, bevel the edges, and put a black enamel on there, so that again, it's not going to get glass fibers in your fingers, I hope. Okay. So that's the rods. The document sleeves. The document sleeve, let's get some of these flags out of the way. There is one flag I'm going to put on here. Let me redo this while you're watching. If I was going to order all of this, here's how I would have things. I would put this. I would put this. Let's do this all over. Let's put the rods in here first. Let's put that on. And that on. I would put the flag bar down below. I'm in much need of a break here, if that hasn't become obvious to you. What in the world? Oh, my screws are in the way. That will help. So I would have that on here. I like to have the flags up about eye level, and this width with 28-inch long rods is the same width as the front. It's about 32 inches, same width primarily as the front of the trike. So then I would have this up at the top. And that comes with the set screw in the end, so I'm going to have that on the top. And then I can put a flag in the middle here. So again, this whole system, it's very easy to customize this whole setup back here. And again, this whole thing can come out and be transported individually. I will be coming up there. I already have a price list for this flag arrangement and all the goodies. I'm just, every day it seems like something new is being developed, like for glow whips, and I've got a camera mount that will blow you away. Anyway, it all fits down in these two ports. Now, there is one thing I want to say about this particular flag arrangement today. A year ago today, I was in Atlanta working on a canopy for James Dobson, and this is what I call a grieving flag. And I know James is watching this, and he's giggling because he wants to go over to the varsity again. Anyway, I'll be making those for you. Not necessarily James Dobson, unless you want one, of course. But a grieving flag, and it does have a topper up at the top, by the way. It fits on the end of the rod. Again, this is an ongoing phase of developing the canopy and adding to it. But there's your flag package. I'm going to leave it attached. I'm going to take it off so you can see it, and then I'm going to reattach it, and I'll show you a picture of it attached. This is your gear lock. James Dobson had 2 of these a year ago, and we had problems with when he went from Raleigh to Atlanta. We didn't have anything in the ends here, so this sagged open and some business cards fell out. So when he hit Atlanta, I had popsicle sticks in there. Well, the popsicle sticks broke, and so now it's got a plastic rod in there that's pretty darn forgiving, and it keeps that end from collapsing and allowing items to spill out. So this has been improved. The next improvement, I've got maybe a dozen of these in stock. The next improvement, I'm going to put a little bit an eyelet out here so that you can attach a lanyard to your phone or wallet or a bag or whatever. But this just simply clips in on the main rods. This will fit any canopy that's out there, because they were all made the same size. So making little add-ons like this is really, it's kind of fun, because I don't have to search for, well, what size was that? There's your gear lock. It's up forward, in front of everything. I've got a teether strap I hook my camera to. It's on this rod here, and you can see that the visors dock up against this rod going across. And when they're deployed, there's a little arm that swings out. This too has been made longer because of James Dobson. He lost one. If you look at some of the videos between Raleigh and Atlanta, one visor just hanging down. Well, he actually dumped his trike over, and when this bent, this rod was shorter, and it came out, and he didn't know it until he was back on the road. So I made them longer, and they worked a whole lot better, and they are now permanently longer than what they originally were. But that's what the inside looks like. When you want to dock a visor, you just slide that bar over, tilt it up, and operate the visor using this little knob back here in the back, and take your little Velcro strap and tie it down. Swing it over, tie it down. Gear loft. The windshield, upper part of all the windshield, there's a number of holes here, and there's some accessories that I'm working on that will clamp to this. Phone holders and so forth. Some people say, well, how do you get on and off one of these things with the canopy? You basically get on and off the same way you always would, and you can even grab it back here with that quick disconnect, and it's attached. So with this tinted wicker bill up here, it's pretty nice even right now, because it's helping to block that low setting sun. Getting out, yes, I have to lean to the side because it's just not, I don't have enough loft in the canopy, and I usually grab a hold, and it's probably going to want to slide on these leaves, but I grab a hold of the canopy up over my shoulder. I always connect it back. I've seen a lot of pictures where the canopy has not been connected, and the wind it'll bend it all the way back to the ground. Hopefully it won't break anything, but it's kind of scary. The last item on the list, line 59, I'm sorry, we passed over the document sleeve. The document sleeves, line 58, come in a package. There's some Velcro here that would attach to primarily the patch that's underside and forward up front here. And inside here are 2 plastic sleeves. They'll come in this envelope. And I've tried to put a piece of paper between the two. Well, here's one, and the other is a smaller version, and it's just rigid plastic. And when you put a small piece of that Velcro on the back, then you can attach it to the Velcro patches, your accessory packages. And the only reason I even make this available is that it's really hard to find this size. Typically you can find this size and smaller, like at a drugstore or something, or Walmart, for photos, but it's hard to find this larger size. I've got a piece of paper here separating the two pieces, but it's hard to find this size, so I just make it available. I don't know how many I buy of these at a time, dozens for sure. So that's available. That is your document sleeve. You can cut them up and make them smaller if you want. Not much more on the list. Line 60, the Canopy install. If you wanted me to come over and install your canopy at your place of business, your home, I prefer working with a bike shop. If you can arrange with your bike dealer, trike dealer, for me to come and just use an available space. Outside is fine in the summer, and in dry weather I can bring it easy up, but that usually works out real well. I think it gives the opportunity to the dealer to see what goes on with the canopy. Not that they're going to be required to do anything at all. I don't even need power. I don't need anything other than just, I think, a safe place. That's the key. If we do it at a dealer, I usually, if I do a video, which I like to do, I like to give credit to the dealer. I just think it's a way of saying thanks to them. So I can do that. If going a long distance, it's really rough to put a canopy in a car or trailer and drive a long way. If we could have several to install, you start getting my attention. If we can get the dealer involved, maybe you want to put one in the showroom, let's talk, okay? We can talk about that.